Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to assemble the most important part of the computer, the motherboard. The motherboard is a central hub for the entire computer. It has tons of ports and sockets for plugging things in, as well as controlling and managing how each component interacts with one another. Because of this, it is very important that you assemble the motherboard correctly so that your computer functions as expected.
First thing you need to do is set up your assembly area. You'll want a nice clear space with ample lighting so you can see what you're doing and have room to work. You can use your motherboard's box as a clean working area that is also free from any static electricity. Next, you'll need to gather your parts. For this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to install the following components. A motherboard, obviously. A CPU, or processor. You should use a site such as PCPartPicker.com, linked in the description below, to make sure that your CPU is compatible with your motherboard. Intel and AMD CPUs are physically different, so it will require different types of motherboards. A CPU cooler, to ensure your CPU is able to operate at peak efficiency. Most CPUs come with a stock cooler that works well enough, but you can also install a different cooler. Compatible RAM sticks, again using PC Part Picker to ensure compatibility. Newer motherboards will not support older generations of RAM and vice versa. So, now that you have all your components, it's time to start building. This is the processor, or CPU. It's the brains of the computer and controls how everything works once the PC is turned on. The CPU has a small triangle in one of its corners. Similarly, your motherboard also has a small triangle in one of the corners of the CPU socket plate. Press down on the lever and then lightly pull it outwards. This will allow the CPU plate to lift up. Now, gently place your CPU chip into the socket. Make sure to line up the triangles to ensure you put it in correctly. Now, close the CPU plate and push the lever down into place. It may take a bit of force to do this. And with that, you are ready to install the next part. Most modern CPUs come with a stock cooler that is more than good enough to handle cooling a CPU under normal circumstances. There are other options for a CPU cooler, however, including liquid and air coolers, and they are all installed the same way. First, if your cooler has a backplate, put it behind the motherboard and line it up so the screw holes slightly come through the respective holes in the motherboard. If your cooler has a front plate, make sure to secure it to the actual cooler. Your cooler will come with a small amount of gray goop, called thermal paste, already applied. This is where your cooler will make physical contact with the top of the CPU. Line up the backplate screw holes with the screws on the front plate. Press down to make sure the cooler and CPU contact, and then tighten the screws on the front plate in a diagonal manner, like this. Once you do this, make sure nothing is loose here, or else the CPU will not get proper cooling and will be at risk of overheating. If everything is tight, you are ready to install the memory. The RAM is temporary memory that allows the computer to do multiple things at once. In short, the more RAM you have installed, the more Chrome tabs you can keep open without your computer grinding to a halt. First, locate the RAM slots on your motherboard. There may be 2, 4, or 8 of them, and they are usually to the right of your CPU. Sometimes these are colored in an alternating pattern, and if you have more than one RAM stick, you should install them in the same colored slots to increase performance. Press down on the small tabs on both the top and bottom of each RAM slot. Locate the offset notch on your RAM stick and line it up with the notch on your RAM slot. Then, place the RAM stick into the slot until you hear the popping sound of the tabs going back into place. Repeat this process for any additional RAM sticks, remembering to alternate slots, and manually close the tab of any unused slots. Now that you have installed your RAM, all of the base parts of your motherboard have been assembled. Other ports and sockets of the motherboard include USB headers, which allow for your USB ports to function. The color-coded front panel pins allow for your PC case buttons to perform their functions. PCIe lanes, like the one pictured here, are used for graphics cards, and your motherboard may have more than one of them. You can add storage devices, like hard drives or SSDs, via these built-in SATA ports. And there are plenty more sockets and ports on your motherboard that provide other functionalities. But, for now, you've successfully assembled your motherboard, and are one big step closer to a fully functioning computer.